of her. I think she is an asset to our country. She's a mother. She's someone who I believe, Liberia is blessed to have. I'm excited. I'm looking forward to hearing what she has to say at all levels. I know this has been a long time coming. So Stanton, I know you do what you do best. And we're excited. We're excited. I think this is going to be a great interview.
Let me ask you a question, Ben. Mm-hmm. Who should do this introduction today?
No, you do it. You do it. I
know I cannot do that, Ben. I cannot do that. Let's say I cannot do that. You should be the one. Emmanuel, please drop the link in the chat. Emmanuel, please. They are waiting on the link, Emmanuel. But why should I? Why are you trying to do this to me, Ben? I promised the Liberian people the VP.
Yeah.
All right. Who am I to introduce a VP? Ben, we're wasting her time.
Okay.
I cannot do that, Ben. I will not take your position away from you.
I think, listen, and I think, look, we will be doing her a great disservice by trying to even compact an introduction. But what I would say, right, to bring her on, is that I believe this woman is an asset. I believe I've seen her work. I know her passion. But I also, she is the vice president of our country. Our country is not too well, and she is the second in command. So we're going to be looking forward to hearing what she has to say. She is the co-pilot to this team. The president is the pilot. So without resting or any ado, I think everybody's anticipating this. So let's bring on.
Before you bring her on, let me ask you a question. I know I'm going to get myself in trouble. Which country is she from? Which country?
She's from
people.
She's from Bong. She's from Lopa. She's from Monserrato.
So my hair in our You go ahead. You go ahead.
She's a mother. She's my mother. Somebody who I think. Madam Joa Howard Taylor, Chief Neswa Koko. Yeah, you know that she's also a chief. Chief Neswa. Wow. Yes. So it's exciting. Let's bring on Madam VP. Yeah.
Thank you very much. Good afternoon, good evening, Madam Joa Howard Taylor. How you doing today? Happy healthy New Year to you and yours. Thank you for joining us today.
Thank you. It's an honor and a privilege for me. And I want to say a very, very happy New Year to the Spoon family, to all of our hosts that are taking part in this hopefully exciting.
I can't hear her.
I'm sorry, we're not hearing the Vice President of the Republic of Liberia. We will overcome this tech issue. Ben, can you text me the link?
Okay, let me do that.
Emmanuel, are you okay? You guys with us?
Yeah, I'm with you guys. I don't know what's going on outside, but can you get me?
We can hear you.
Are you hearing me?
Yes, sir, we are.
All right.
Can you hear me?
Yes, ma'am. We are hearing you, but just your video is out.
Okay, just go ahead with the introduction while we try to get it.
Okay, let me say again, it's a rare opportunity to have Ben Sanvi and Mr. Witherspoon and the Spoon family. Happy New Year to each of you. I also want to take this time to say Happy New Year to Liberians at home and abroad, and to all of our mothers across the length and breadth of our country, and to our young daughters that are struggling in different circumstances, trying to step up to the plate and do what is necessary. Happy New Year to everybody. I'm really happy to be here. Thank you again for this opportunity.
Thank you very much, Madam VP. You see, it's an honor. We just don't know how to start this program. We're going to pass this technical issue. Now you're coming by way of audio, but we will have your video pretty soon. And the Liberian people want to hear from you. Most people joining us right now, the video has been shared because it has been a very long time since he spoke to the nation. With this opportunity given to the Spoon family, Fabric FM, Support FM, we want to say we will be relaying as well for a lot of people to listen in Liberia and those in the diaspora to listen to you and to bring, as you bring up your 2021 message forth. Let's give you, please, few seconds because I want them to see you. Thank you very much, guys. Thank you for bringing her back home. Can you hear us now?
We're not hearing you.
Madam VP, can you hear us?
Yeah, I'm hearing you now.
No, not you are not a VP, sir. You are not a VP, Emmanuel.
The microphone was off. So
all right.
I'm sorry you have to start.
Okay, so are we good?
Well, I'm good. I think you are too.
Okay.
All right. Thank you very much. So let's just get into it. While we wait for the other guys, let's just get into it. What's your message? What would be the first thing you say to the Liberian people for almost maybe a year, 3 months since you have the opportunity to speak to them? We want to give you the time as you do your intro, man.
And the first thing I want to say is thanks be to the Almighty God, the maker of heaven and earth, that has allowed those of us who are still in the land of the living to be able to engage one another on this New Year's Day. The second thing I would like to say is that a new year provides new opportunities. You get a chance to leave the past in the past and begin a new step forward. If you're a mother, you must find a new way to get your families to where they need to be. If you are a father, you are the head of your household, you must also look into the future and ensure that your children are able to be what God created them to be. If you are a community worker, there are so many things that we need to do, not just government, but individuals also have strong responsibilities when it comes to nation building. And if you are a government or society organization, each of us has a responsibility that we must uphold. Our people have longed for a
I'm sorry, guys. We still having some technical issue. I'm sorry. We are not hearing the VP.
Oh my God. Emmanuel, we're not hearing.
Yeah, you got to unmute your mic.
Yeah, but we are not hearing the.
I mean, you was talking, we're not hearing because.
Yeah.
Did you hear me?
Yes. Yes.
Okay.
Hear me now?
We can hear you now. Emmanuel, can you going off?
I was just saying, depending on who you are, what level you are in society, the roles and responsibilities that each of us must play to make Liberia better has to be at the forefront of all of our lives. And each one has a specific responsibility. Over the last 24 hours, I believe everyone who's living had a chance to look at 2020, and all of the challenges we faced. For those who are privileged to be alive, we must have written up our new agendas, how we're going to work, the things we're going to do, and how we're going to impact our country positively. And so I think as we wind down the first day of the year, that is what's on the minds of most Liberians. What is it we have to do? How can we do it better so that our country becomes better and not bitter?
See, your mic is muted. Can you unmute your microphone?
Am I good now?
Yes, sir.
Thank you very much. Since we're talking about this big agenda and moving Liberia forward, Madam VP, I want to say on behalf of the station also, and on behalf of my family, please, on this open forum, please accept our condolences. You lost a dear friend and you lost your brother. Not to go deeper into that, though, as we express this, tell us exactly how you're keeping on right now.
Well, the two people who I love were a part of a strategic team around me. for advice, for information. When you make a mistake, they're there to say, hey, you can't go left, you have to go right. So starting a new year without the both of them is a little challenging. But as a Christian, we must believe that all things are okay as you move forward. It will be a challenging time for me and for members of both families. But as we are still alive, what we must do is to keep their memories in our mind and do what we think they would have said we should do in a way that will make our countries better. And for me, again, I want to say, have my sympathy to all of the families that were involved in both deaths. And I wish God would give us the strength and the courage, each of us, including the children, to move forward. This is what they would have said.
Thank you very much. Now, let's just do the quick one question each, because we have sufficient time. Another hour will be out of here. Ben, you go ahead first. Let's start this thing first, Node. We will do the NGOs. We understand, Madam VP, you having one of the biggest NGO out there. You trying your best to talk about gender-based issue. That is very important when it comes to women, children, also young men in Liberia today. A lot of different story coming up about gender-based issue. We saw that there was a demonstration on rape. We don't know how far that has gone. There was petition given to the president as well. A lot of explanation coming up on this issue. We want to give you the time, please. Connect this with your foundation. You're trying to move forward, and what's the name of your foundation and the purpose of such foundation in helping the gender-based violence in Liberia?
Stanton, I believe in 2021, all of us must do more. The fact that the numbers keep rising means that we need to double our efforts. And a lot has been done. I want to thank all of the different NGOs and government for making this a priority. What do we do better in 2021? My NGO is called the Jewel Starfish Foundation. It's about 20 years old. And what I've done is to provide support to young girls across the length and breadth of our country. We provide mentoring, we provide education, we provide all kinds of other support so that girls from 7th grade through the university may have an opportunity to be the leaders that they can be. I do admit that rape and sexual-based violence, whether it's physical or mental, has a large part to play in the lives of our young daughters. If you're in a home that you're physically abused, it damages your psychic and you're not able to accomplish the things you would have if you had not been abused. If you are being verbally abused, it's still a problem. Forget it if you're raped or gang raped, it's even worse. But we keep talking about this issue, and I think the men cannot be left out of this conversation because there are fathers that are involved, there are brothers, there are uncles, there are close family members. I think it's rare that you see rape occurring with a total stranger, and there are instances where it happens, but mostly those are the people around, young girls and children that will be the ones, the caregivers, the family members who would actually embark on a venture like that. What we must do now is raise all of our voices and our finances in providing a safe place where victims who come from these very difficult circumstances can rest, can be counseled, can get additional training, and be encouraged to continue their education. Because most times it's the girls who suffer. People are raping babies who are 2 years old. For the life of me, I can't begin to imagine why someone would rape a 2-year-old or a 12-year-old or a 21-year-old. I think women should have an opportunity to protect themselves without being preyed upon by those who are closest to them. So my NGO is working with rape victims. We're providing opportunities. There's a little girl in Cape Mount called Fatumata, and I won't call her last name. She was raped by a teacher, and she had a baby, and it became a national outcry. I went out there, met with them, took some supplies for the mother and the baby, and I found they were living in a mud house. So I found a place for them to stay, provided them with, different supplies and mattresses and beds that they could use to get a little bit of a break. And we asked the community people to begin to take care of them because the parents of that little girl and her older sister are dead. So you have a situation where there are two siblings, very young. The oldest one is about 21, struggling to survive. And this is the issue that we face every day. I hope all of us in 2021 will not just talk about it because there's been a lot of talk. It's like Coca-Cola. You open your Coca-Cola bottle and it fizzles out and then it just, fizzles down and people forget until there's another gruesome rape. We must begin to really look at it in terms of how people go to court, make sure that all the evidence that is needed is made available. So when a family takes the choice to go to court, they're not left hanging at the end of it because we don't have a DNA report. So I think a lot has to happen in 2021 so that our daughters and our mothers can be safer.
So thank you very much, Madam Vice President. Who are you working with when it comes to this issue? Are you which one, the private entity, or do you have any governmental assistance from your office or the office of the First Lady? Because we saw that the president himself, he was totally involved when the demonstration started, and he accepted the petition from the gender ministry. I want you to expand on that, please.
And I think what the president did, and I want to thank him for taking that leadership role, was open an environment where everybody could add their part. Our society is small in a way because we are about 5 million people, but everyone needs to add their hand to the soup. So the Ministry of Gender, with all of its challenges, are doing what they can. The Office of the First Lady is also involved. And there are many other local and international NGOs involved because the level of abuse is very high. What I'm trying to do is to make sure there is a safe house that is government owned, that we don't have to pay huge rents for renting property in some places where we can actually have rape victims or sexual and gender-based violence victims, have a safe place to stay and be rehabilitated. So I think every drop in the bucket, every hand added to the table helps us to deal with this issue much faster. But the Ministry of Gender and Development is the line agency responsible for gender issues, and they've called out for everyone to join and do what they can. And so I'm just trying to do my part as the first female vice president of our country and one who has been involved in activism for more than 20 years. I just feel that I too have a responsibility to do the little bit that I can to help make this situation less of a menace as it is today.
Have you called a national summit on the women issue of this? Not what the president did to receive the petition, but have your office, as vice president of the Republic of Liberia, focus more light on this issue? I'm asking the question based on the fact that it shouldn't just be your foundation. It shouldn't just be about Madam Joa Howard Taylor. The togetherness would prove bigger strength. So that's why, have you called a national issue? Have you spoken to the First Lady on this issue, that we can have some kind of organization to help foster this process though?
I want to thank the president because when the outcries came out from different women groups raising this issue that enough was enough, Madam Salif added her voice and all the other prominent women of our country, he quickly called a conference. He called first a meeting to determine the way forward. A gender conference was called to look at all of the issues and to again ask everyone to add their bit to help us solve this problem. So I think as the leader of our country, he's opened the platform. He said this is a problem and asked everyone to get involved. So we're looking at who's doing what and how we can complement the work of one another. I think that's where I am.
I'll ask my last question, then Ben and the rest of the team can jump on, because this is very important to me when it comes to this conversation from a foundation standpoint. While we're on this conversation, is there any funds allocated for gender-based violence through the gender ministry? If you know, are they being appropriately, correctly?
Well, there are two questions you've asked. The gender ministry has a budget for many issues, many gender issues, whether it's leadership, whether it's FGM, whether it's sexual and gender-based violence, whether it's providing safe homes. What they do is government has allocated some funds, but then they must go out and bring others on board, especially the international NGOs. Remember, there was a Spotlight initiative launched about 2 years ago, and the UN system is working with the gender ministry and local partners to make sure that we enhance and we prevent sexual and gender-based violence. So I think at different levels, there are different kinds of funding. I've been to several of those meetings. We had a really major one in Cape Mount. Cape Mount has a large number of sexual and gender-based violence issues. And so we actually had to go and host a program there, which was hosted by UNFPA. But everyone was involved, including the ministries and agencies. With Justice Ministry is involved. The Ministry of Youth and Sports is involved. So everyone came on board at that meeting to launch the SGBV Prevention and Response Initiative out of the funding that was made available from the UN. So there's a lot happening in different sectors. Everyone, however, must again do what you can to make a difference.
Thank you very much. Dr. Peabody, Santoma, and George, Ben going to start with the question and we'll do the go around. Go ahead, Ben.
So, man, VP, I wanted to ask you specifically. I know you mentioned that the foundation and your office are trying to work on something. Can you talk to us a little more about what this project is? You talked about a safe house in your previous comment. What is it going to be? Where is it going to be located? What is it going to be made of? And how can we be a part of helping any way possible?
And the reason why I'm looking at this initiative is that I did a small assessment of some of the safe homes. There are several on the highway, and you can't call their names because they're supposed to be safe homes. But when I did an assessment of those safe homes, I found out that they're at the max. That if there is an additional case, we may not be able to send them there because there's a limit on how many children should be in one place. And so I found the need to talk about building new facilities. I think the Ministry of Gender, and I want to say thank you to Minister Piso Sedita, just inaugurated a safe home, and I'm not going to say where it is. It was furnished and ready so that it could be used, and I think they're using that. But when you look at the numbers that we see across our country, we know that we need more than just what we have. There are many counties that don't even have a gender desk that deals with sexual and gender-based violence. So we have to make sure that each of our counties have what it needs. But the project is important because it's just another effort of finding a safe place. I want to thank the YWCA, the board of the YWCA and the management for agreeing that YWCA was set up for providing an environment where young women were able to get access to Christian education, to leadership skills. It was a place where people could be safe. And I know as First Lady, I ran a program there for 6 years. I took about 100 little girls off the street, and for 6 years they were tutored. They had a chance to go to school at Haywood. And I want to say Happy New Year to the Haywood family. And after 6 years, a lot of them opened their own businesses. Some of them went on to college, and there's a particular one who actually went away to China and came back with a master's. She has a very high profile now at the Ministry of Labor. And so these facilities actually help provide an environment. And so YWCA has agreed that they will host one of the facilities. It won't just be a place for like a hostel. They will have recreational places and somewhere for skills training and development. And so we're going to be working hopefully with Spoon Foundation and with the YWCA to see how we can raise funds to make this project one that will be added to the many that our country really, really need.
And my VP, just staying on the project, I know we do. I don't know, do you have to, because I want us to just exhaust this conversation and then we can get into the governance and politics and all the other ones, because I know this is really dear to your heart. And so, Emmanuel, if you do have this video, maybe let's play it so people can get a chance to see what this project looks like. What is it going to be called? And talk about, I know there is a component in our discussion prior to the interview You talk about it being it's been constructed by continuous using continuous, so it's even safe, it's green, it's going to be a lot more cheaper. So I want the audience to get a chance to see it. So if Emmanuel has it, maybe we can just go ahead and play it.
We can play it. We can play it in the middle. Let's just give Tomanin and Dr. Peabody to ask a question while the VP is answering. We will try to play that. Go ahead, Dr. Peabody.
Madam Vice President, good to see you and thank God to have you back, looking strong and healthy in mind and body. It is really good to see you. You've been through a lot. You just buried some good people of yours. You've had some health issue and you went through some self-degradation. Why are you coming up now to still do this, launch this foundation? What gave you the courage and think to do it?
I think the courage comes from the fact that God has allowed me to live another day. And looking back at me being affected with COVID, spending 35 days in ICU, and being alive today, I think there's much more that God wants me to do. If I did not have much more to contribute, maybe I wouldn't be sitting here. So my conviction comes from the fact that I'm alive. And I know my heart is broken, but I'm alive, and I think I can still contribute to my country's development, especially in areas where we have such a need. When women are being abused across our nation and young girls are being raped, gang raped, there's something that needs to be done. And you know, you must look at the fact that I was elected the first female vice president by the women of this country across the length and breadth of Liberia. There are high expectations, and so it is not expected that though I could be sad or though I could have some challenges, that I sit in the corner and cry, because whenever I get a chance to speak to young girls, I say, whatever the challenges are, you must continue to step up, step forward, and keep moving. And though you fall, you get up and you wipe your knee and you keep on walking. Eventually, you achieve your goal and the plans for which God has for every individual. And so I have to keep moving.
How soon do you plan to get this work on the way?
Well, I'm in a smaller conversation with the Spoon Foundation and with YWCA. All of the containers are procured. I want to say thank you to the Shippers Association that gave us almost all of the containers. We're expecting just a few more from one or two other private companies, but we have about 90% of the containers that we need. We now have to raise the money to be able to build the facilities and maybe operate it for a year, and then hopefully we can get some extra help. But I think in the short run, hopefully the Spoon Foundation will agree. There's some letters that we are exchanging to be the foundation that will help us raise the funding that we need. And we're hoping that Liberians across the diaspora will chip in here. I watched the other day, and there were about 150 viewers watching the Spoon TV. And if everyone would just give $1, then we'll have what we need. Hopefully we can together do this. It's not something I can do alone, but I hope that all Liberians at home and abroad will join this effort so that we're doing something for ourselves instead of always looking outside to see who can give us the help that we need, because this is really a very important project.
Sentimony, please.
Happy New Year, Madam Vice President. And I just, after all the news about your health and everything, I just give God the glory for you. Looking good.
Amen. I give God the glory also.
Amen. Madam Vice President, regarding the issues of our girls and women, what is the government doing towards the enforcement of laws that are on the books, strict laws concerning the violation of our girls, and also the protection of our children too? And lastly, issue about DNA machine. I know the Minister of Gender, I think the President, they mentioned that they were going to purchase DNA machine to track on these cases of violation on these people. Can you give us the status of it too?
Okay, the first thing is, what is government doing? And we always forget that government has a responsibility to provide an enabling environment for our laws, for our interactions, but they're not actually the enforcer, especially when it comes to the issue of rape. And I think the question goes also to the families. Most times, rape issues are not brought to the table because families are embarrassed and they feel ashamed. So instead of dealing with it, they usually say, well, let's do it a family way. So even though maybe a police station or a police officer or a community leader may have heard about a case, by the time you try to delve into it, then family members step in. So it becomes a really difficult thing to handle. So the responsibility for government is to provide the enabling environment. We have a separate court that deals with sexual and gender-based violence. So we have a court that you don't have to wait for everything to work through before you get, last case in, first case out, because it deals specifically with sexual and gender-based violence. So the court is available. We have places at the police station. There are gender decks at most of the police stations, where if this issue comes up, then it becomes a government issue once it's reported. But many times they're not reported. And so everyone has a role to play. It also, I believe, families have a more serious responsibility, whether you're the father, stepfather, or real father. Men are the ones perpetrating this menace. There are very few cases of boys being raped, and I'm not saying that they're not, because sodomy is also on the rise. But we are the family members. There are always signs. If someone is a stepfather and always, having maybe a elder daughter sitting on his lap and things that are uncomfortable, people should be able to pick it up. But families just take things for granted. Mothers leave their babies with people who they have relations with and go to work or go to the market all day, and men end up raping babies. So everyone has a responsibility. Is government in your house or in your room or in your family? No, they're not. They're standing outside. And so I think the responsibility mainly lies on the family members to ensure that these things do not happen, because you will always find little signs here and there. And sometimes the mothers, ignore it. Sometimes the children are so afraid to say something's happening to them. By the time you realize that there is an issue here, it's already late. There was a case a few months ago of a young child that was gang raped, and someone used a razor blade. Can you imagine, to cut her open so they could have sex with her? There's something going on here, and I think we need to look into the minds of the people. Why is it such an issue at this time? Growing up in Liberia, when I did many, many years ago, you could actually play in the neighborhood and you won't be harmed, because everyone had a responsibility to take care of the children that were community children. So it was a we situation. Nowadays, you have people afraid to even say something to a little girl who's walking on the street and maybe inappropriately dressed, or a little girl who is being harassed by older men. If you dare just say, what are you doing with this man? You probably get abused. But when I grew up, it wasn't like that. So there are open cases now where 70 and 80-year-old men have 21-year-old girls on their arms, and they go to public functions and say, oh, this is my girlfriend. So we've become a little bit too acceptable as a society, and many things are happening. And so I don't want to lay the blame on government. I think we're trying. We've provided resources. There are many NGOs, international funding that has come in to help us deal with the issue. But I believe it's on the rise because family members are not paying attention. Little girls are left by themselves too long. They are being abused, and people are hiding it. So I think we need to talk more about what the family is doing. Why are they not paying attention? When you have a child, you are responsible for that child until that child becomes an adult. So there's more responsibility on a mother or a father who takes the opportunity to have a child or have many children, and they don't watch them. And I think they too should be held responsible. In the Western world, I think when people get raped, the parents are also questioned. It's not like the girl is walking down the street by herself. In America, if you rape a child, you'll go to jail for the rest of your life. And if there's something that ends up in death, you're going to be on death row. So I think we need to be a little bit more serious in the laws that we have on the books, so that when people realize that if you rape someone, you could get the maximum punishment, whatever it is, then maybe people's attitude will begin to change. But it's a societal menace, and all of us must try in our weak way to see what can be done in changing the mindset of the young men that are being sodomized, or the people who are sodomizing them, or those who are raping girls below age. There are old women who sometimes even get raped. So there's a problem here. So I think it goes beyond what government's responsibility is to why are we so acceptable of the society that we live in, that a mother can send her 12-year-old child and say, oh, you see your friend bringing back a rest, go bring your own. So there are a lot of things happening, and I think we need to take it on that level by talking about this, by going into the communities and raising the alarm, by going into the communities and giving the young girls hope that if somebody even just touches you the wrong way, because you will feel that it's wrong, holler, make noise about it so that we can, and then we need to name and shame those who are doing rape. We have a tendency of hiding people. If it is my father or my brother or someone, oh, let's leave it at that because it will bring shame to the family. If you can go and rape a child, then you're not a family person. You should be exposed. So I think we need to really go out there like they do in America and Europe and put up the list of pedophiles. And if you live in a community, they will put your picture up so everybody knows there's a pedophile living in the community, so everybody can be a little bit more careful. But I think there's actually something wrong in our society for which this thing continues to grow higher and higher and higher. I mean, as young as 18-month-old babies are being raped. I mean, what kind of pleasure can someone get from that? So there's something wrong at the society level. And hopefully we can find a way. It's not just about providing a DNA machine or taking somebody to court. It's about correcting it at the societal level so that it doesn't continue to rise. And hopefully we can see a reduction in the numbers if all of us become more aware of what we're doing. But there are DNA machines in the country. There was a problem before, but I think it's been settled. And I think we need to privatize some of those machines so people can actually keep them working. And government may have to pay for the test to make sure that by the time a child gets to court, they're not saying, oh, there was no reagent in the machine, and we don't have anybody to do the machine and read the results of it, because when you make some things private, then it's more effective. Maybe we need to also look into that.
It's a good thing, Madam VP. Thank you very much for this great initiative and your organization. We're going to speak on that more often, but I like the fact that you are saying that those machines and offices should be privatized in a way that, because everything about this, the government, I'm not talking about just this government. I'm saying once you can privatize the office where they're going to go and do the DNA test, it will be managed well, and there will be no foul play. So I will accept that. Now, before we move over to another conversation or topic point, let me ask you, the facility you intend to build, where it comes with some kind of mental counseling office, because actually this thing having a serious trauma on the victim as well.
And I think that's priority number one, because these girls who are abused feel as if some people think when something bad happens to you, most girls think that it's their fault. First thing your mother would say, oh, what were you doing down there late at night? Or why did you wear this short trousers? I mean, if I'm home, I used to wear short trousers in my home, and my father never looked at me in a sexual way. He didn't allow me to go outside on the street with him because he knew it would be a risk. But when young girls are home, they should be relaxed. Nowadays, everything is an issue, but these girls are not being counseled. And it's a long-term process to get someone from the point of feeling that they're responsible for an attack. Remember now, there's mental attack, there's psychological attack, there's physical abuse. All of those things have a part to play. If you're mentally abused in your home or in your job or in your community, it's almost like someone who's going crazy, which is as bad as someone who is sexually abused. So I agree with you that I believe counselors, and there have been quite a few who have gone away to school and are back at home, they need to be engaged to get involved in this process. And when I was young, we had social workers that would go to the communities unannounced, just to go and find out what's happening in the home, how are girls being treated, girls and boys. They used to check to find out whether the home had all of the facilities. No home was built in Liberia when I was growing up, especially in the cities, that didn't have a bathroom. Today, people are building houses without bathrooms. They're renting it to people. And then you have to go outside in the night to use the toilet and putting more girls at risk. but there are people who would check and make sure that the homes are okay. If there was a problem in a home and a girl just said something funny to the counselors, they looked into it until they got to the bottom of it, and they began to help help resolve the issues that came out of their interventions. We got to go back to some of the old ways, I think. Hopefully it will help.
So let me say this. They had a roadmap that was presented to the president. Have you seen the roadmap from the?
Yes, I have.
Okay. Is the roadmap pleasant to you? Do you think any changes need to be made?
And let me talk about it in a general way. Liberia has many, many laws on its books. You'll be surprised what we have. We must implement those laws now. We must make sure that the roadmap becomes a practical reality so that those who have responsibilities at every level will make sure it becomes a practical reality so that in the end, people will see what comes out of it. Because if you ask for paperwork across Liberia, my dear, from 1847 to today, I've been reading some old documents, some old letters, some old State of the Union messages, and the issues haven't really changed. We're still dealing with a lot of the different things that have been a part of our societal engagements for many years. So laws, yes, a new roadmap has been drawn up. Can we make it effective? Can we ensure that what is needed in case a girl is sexually abused or a boy is sodomized? I don't think we have anything. We're not even dealing with the issue of sodomization yet. Most times it's rape, but young boys are being sodomized. So we must look at it holistically. And I don't think government would do everything. So, NGOs, civil society organizations, others have to get involved in this fight to make sure we can stop it. And then we begin to deal with the root causes of it so that each of us can play our part. So I think the roadmap is okay. We must make it effective and make it alive so people have a little bit more trust in the system. So people wouldn't be hiding cases of sexual and gender-based violence, thinking about, the government may not prosecute it. In the end, they will say the person isn't guilty. People have a bad impression about what happens if you agree to get involved in a case like this. And we have to give our citizens a soft landing and explain it a little bit more and go down to the grassroots so that they are able to believe that this is something that we are sure about doing and that they see the fruits of this roadmap.
Thank you very much. I know we have a lot of discussion on this issue, and especially for me, I know how it is. I have 3 girls, I have 2 boys, and God forbid, should anything happen, I will be on death row because I will kill somebody. I say it openly right now. So I want to say to you, thank you very much for this great initiative. We have gone 45 minutes into this discussion. Now we're going to spin to politics. It would be so bad I would at least talk about politics. Before we do that,
political animals.
You got a video that we want to play. The video is just a minute, few seconds.
Yeah.
Please bear with us. Let's just play the video, please.
And so these homes are made out of the containers, correct?
Yes, they're container homes, and the cost is 60% less than if you build with cement.
Wow.
And it can be done quickly, it's safer, and is eco-friendly, so that we get rid of the millions of containers that we have sitting around, and you can't really throw them away. They can still be useful.
Wow.
What's the price of this initiative?
Well, the total estimated cost is about $180,000. That means building, furnishing, and 1 year's worth of cost to operate it. Because we'll have a computer lab there completely furnished so girls can learn new skills, especially as we live in the virtual world. There will be some other skills training. There will be a place for a matron to stay because you need someone to take care of them. And there are a few offices for the counselors and for recreation for them.
Wow. This is great. Congratulations. And I think, like Stanton has said, this is something that we all are going to support and be a part of. I am a father of two daughters also, so me and you will be on death row together. If but I do agree, and I just want to say congratulations. I know where your heart is. I know how this is personal to you, and so you can rest and count on our support to make sure that this happens. Is there a timeline? This is something that you will accomplish within this year. It shouldn't take too long to build it since it's just containers that are being transformed, correct?
Correct. And it will take less time because you don't have to wait for cement to cure for weeks and all of that. That's why I'm taking this route, because it's cheaper, it's eco-friendly, and it can be actually done in about 6 weeks if all of the materials, because we have to put siding, you have to put a floor, you build it just like a house, so it looks really beautiful. And then it's cool, heat, and it's warm enough when it's cold. So there are a lot of benefits to such a project, plus the fact that it's about 60% less in cost if you were to build a cement building that we do normally. These can last for 50 years.
And knowing you, I know this is just a pilot, because knowing you, once this is successful, I'm going to be believing that we're probably going to see a lot of these popping up in other counties. Just knowing the person that.
And I pray if I were a billionaire, Ben, you wouldn't even see me on this show. What I'll be doing will be actually building it. But it's a good initiative for us Liberians to begin to do, because we always look outside and say, let's see where we can get support for this. But I think this is something we can do. I always harp on our friends in the diaspora. I say, if you would just give $5 a month into a fund like the Spoon Fund, and you have 100,000 people, you know how much money you raise every month, and what kind of transformation we could do to our country just by Liberians paying $5 a month, for example. 100,000 people paying $5 a month, Benjamin, can you imagine what it is? $500,000 and just $5 each. I think if we begin to look at it this way and begin to do the strong things that we need, whether it's putting computer labs in schools, our children are not computer literate because there are very few computer labs. So we're not training our children to take advantage of the new world order, which is a virtual world. So you're talking about a virtual world, and there are very few children who understand what you're talking about. Yet, we expect our children to graduate from the university and go and build their own businesses or wait in line to get into government. There's a lot that could happen. And I'm hoping that with the young blood that I see on this panel, that the Spoon Foundation can become a really serious foundation across our nation, just by getting Liberians to put into this piggy bank the projects we would like to see. And we could take, every 3 months, we could go and do a project in a county, whether it's computerizing and electrifying by solar a major school facility, whether it's building water systems and put pipes to people's homes. A lot can happen if we're able to harness the commitment of our people. 100,000 people at $5 a month, I think we can do miracles in our country.
Thank you very much, Madam Vice President. Listen, we all in this together, and we will do our best to make sure the good thing happen for Liberia. Thank you very much. Now, ladies and gentlemen, that's the sexual gender-based violent conversation, things that happen in Liberia that we have to help move Liberia in the right direction when it comes to our young men and women in the country. So we want to say thanks to the Vice President for having this 48 minutes discussion on this issue. Now, let's talk politics. What's going on, Madam Vice President? Emmanuel, you can pull me back, because I like to see the Vice President face when I'm talking politics. Let's talk politics. I mean, we understand with everything that happened. And again, we're in this with you, and we pray that God strengthen you. But we didn't hear from you during the election. We didn't see your participation. There was no phone call. There was no text messages. There were no email. People say all the individuals were working online. Where were the VP during the December 8th election? Let's just start a conversation from there.
Absent without leave.
Wow. Okay, talk to us.
In a serious way, a lot has actually happened over the year. And I thought maybe instead of yapping, and because I'm always talking about issues, step back a little bit. And as a leader, you must believe that people are able to look at their future and take the proper decisions that they must take. Sometimes as mothers, Benjamin will tell you, we overdo it. We keep making noise. You must not do this. You shouldn't do this. Maybe the child has already heard it, but you keep talking about it over and over till you become a broken record. And so I felt that, maybe it was time to just sit back and see, how things would end up. And of course, I wasn't in my best mood at the time with all of the different things that had happened to me this year. But I think 2020 was a very strategic year. The country went to elections to elect midterm senators. And there was a message that was sent. And I hope all of us have heard it, that people are not really happy with the way things are going across our country, that government must do much, much more. And they're expressing their frustration through the electoral process. If you look at the numbers coming out of the 2020 elections, you will find out that I think about 35% of the people who went to the polls. So 70% of our people said, there's no future in this. It's not worth going to vote for. 70%, I believe, just stayed home. That's not the democracy we want to see, because democracy is the engagements and the interactions of a majority of our people. So we didn't even get a 50% of registered voters taking part in this process. So you can tell there's fatigue, there's frustration, and those who went to the polls said, the legislature, which is the first branch of government, that is really the heartbeat of making things work in the country, had not been working properly. And so they decided to put a lot of people out. So I hope everyone has heard that message, not just those who were not brought back, but those who were also elected. From 2005 till 2020, if you look at those who went out and how many people came back, in the Senate, it's been almost consistent. 15 people go out for elections, maybe 2 persons come back. The rest of the people are changed. And this has been consistent. So I think there is something that needs to be looked at. The legislature needs to begin a new period of showing love for country so that our people will begin to believe again. And I'm holding the legislature responsible, because every decision, every budget, every agreement, every assessment is done by the national legislature. So if people are not happy with the way things are going, and they could actually go to the polls and vote people out, this was a protest vote. We need to look at how we engage our fellow citizens going into 2021 with the new lawmakers coming on board. What are we going to do? What are we not going to do? And how can we build a sustained democracy that our people can believe in again? I think there's a lot of hopelessness that was expressed in the 2020 elections. So I hope all of us have heard clearly what the message is.
So in your position, you serve as president, you're going to be presiding over the new Senate, as they say over here, the new Congress, this January. What's your expectation? What are you going to tell them? Where are we heading to? Let me just go back a little bit to ask the question in the more direct form. One, the situation, the economic situation in the country. We had Samuel Toy on the show, Minister Samuel Toy, yesterday. We had a long conversation for 2 hours, 10 minutes. I don't know whether you followed the conversation. Where's the country heading right now? Within the new year, people are hungry, financial tension, financial stress, the healthcare system, the education system that you cannot do away without because of sexual-based violence as well. You are about to preside over the new Senate. What is your message to them, the old and the new coming in?
My message that I will be giving on the second Monday when we open will be a message geared around love for country. That is why we are elected, that we put our best foot forward and we do the best for our country. And it's not impossible, Stanton. It's not. Hopefully we get a new eye. We can look at things a little bit more critically. There are 5-year assessments that can be done with all of the companies that are across our country, all of the investments. Hopefully, we can do some assessments to see where the different companies that are investing in our country are. We need to find a way to build the middle class, because that is where the growth and development of our country will be. We almost have no middle class. You're either in a very high echelon or you're in a very low one. But how can small businesses be encouraged? How do we relax some of the rules so that our people can be able to be strong enough to get involved and open their new businesses and hire people across the length and breadth of our country? How can we make sure that agriculture becomes the mainstay of our government? A lot can happen coming from the legislature. So I'm hoping that in this new sitting that we will be in, we'll take a critical look at what needs to be done and how we can help. And I'm hoping that all of the new senators coming on board, some of them are first-time lawmakers. I hope they'll bring some strength, some energy, some new ideas, some innovation to what we're doing as we help guide the process around the executive and the judiciary branches of government.
Thank you very much, Ben. Go ahead, please.
My Vice President, you happen to be the only elected official that has, well, or I guess high at that level, that has your foot in two branches, the executive and the legislature. Like you said, you're the president of the Senate. One of the messages that was sent in this last election was that the people are asking for people to be a lot more vigilant and to be, in some cases, constructive disruption as far as holding people accountable, right? The Senate that you're going to be presiding over is going to be most likely going to be majority of the opposition. How do you intend to work across the aisle, being that you are the principal deputy to the president? How do you intend to work across the aisle to bridge the gap? Because there has to now be shared governance. How do you intend to do that?
And I think this is what we will see as a matured House of Elders. I know each of you have heard us speak about the Senate as the House of Elders, because actually some of the work we do in the Senate isn't done in the lower house. So we have many more responsibilities as it leads to governance and transparency and accountability. Truly, if you have an opposition body, the only way you will get things done is to engage in bipartisanship for love of country. And I think if you're able to convince every member of the Senate that the decisions or the votes are 16 votes in regular cases and 20 votes in real critical cases like ratification of documents and stuff like that. So depending on what will happen, you need to engage everyone and take it from a point of what good is that decision for the growth, for the peace, and for the development of our country. And I think we are patriotic enough, and I hope that everyone coming on board will understand that it's not about an individual, it is about country. And that is where we will have to look at each one, and you guys will be out there looking and hopefully doing an assessment of all of the loud voices that came across in the elections that caused some of the upsets. Sometimes people say some things that is impossible. And when you get to the stage and you become a senator, then you realize, oh, I promised this particular district I would do a road. A decent 1 mile of road is $1 million. So individually, no one can go and do a decent road without thinking that it will come from government or new arrangements with our friends in the diaspora who have been providing funding for us, like the African Development Bank and the World Bank and all of those people. Some of them are loans, some of them are grants. Where do we put it? Even if someone will come and say, okay, we can do 5 different stretches of roads for 100 kilometers each. Where are the most critical places? Do we continue to spend it? And I don't mean to bash Monrovia, but a lot of work has been done in trying to create these little roads here and there to make the city look what it should be. But the Southeast is inaccessible every year for about 8 months of the year because the rains are so long. So if you have an opportunity to decide whether to go and fix more roads in Montserrat even though there are many people, the population is high, as opposed to locking out the Southeast. Where will we put that money? And I think this is where the media, community leaders, civil society will be looking to see where our decisions will lead. Because in the end, don't forget now, I'm just a presiding officer of the Liberian Senate. And except there is a tie vote, I don't get a chance to vote. I get a chance to remind people of what the rules are and how to vote. I hope we will be voting by hand count so people can be gauged by what they do instead of yay and nay votes, so that in the end someone can say, well, you know, Ben Savvy, and permit me to use your name, who is the senator representing the independent county of whatever, stands up and he votes no every time there are issues concerning the betterment of the country. If you put your hand up and people can gauge how you're voting over time, then someone can say Ben Savvy has not done well. He's not done his work properly, and he has consistently voted against the people's rights. So when it's time to vote him out, you actually can say, hey, look at the record. People must now be gauged upon the record of what they do. And the yay and nay vote don't really give people a chance, you know, to look at it. So I think we will be looking at doing business a little bit different, so everyone is able to be accountable to the people who have elected them. And then you'll see the real people. You'll see the real Ben Savvy based on how he votes. And I think that's what I will look forward to as we get this new page going. And we hope that each senator coming to the table would agree. Our laws state that you can either vote by ballot, secret ballot, by hand count, or by yea and nay. And I think yea and nay is a little surreptitious, because you can never tell who says yea and who says nay. So I'm hoping to get a Senate and involved that will actually give people a chance to stand up, express their opinions on matters, and try to sway people either way. And then at the end, you can say, well, there were 16 senators because the law requires 16 senators. Or there were 20 senators who have their signature on this document because they actually believe this is good for Liberia. So I look forward to a more robust Senate in January 2021. Hopefully, again, we'll look at love of country and how we can upgrade the happiness of our people and ensure that our work shows that we actually are patriotic enough to do the things that need to be done. And I think everything else will follow in its stead.
Thank you very much. You know, we're supposed to have you for 2 hours. We're just going into an hour, 10 minutes right now. So we're going to be very fast because there's a lot to discuss when we get in politics. Please bear with us. I know your people, your security team trying to push us, and we will be very fast. Please, please, please. I want to hear from you. Thank you. It's been a long time. Dr. Peabody, please jump in real quick on politics.
Madam Vice President, just before I go into the politics, I just want to ask you something real quick, and then I'll ask you my other question. If somebody wanted to donate to your project, where would they donate? Do you want them to do it through the Spoon Foundation, or what? How do you want them to
I'm hoping that it will be done through the Spoon Foundation. And again, I'm a politician. I'll be talking to the Spoon Foundation family to actually take hold of the funding and the expenditure of it. So at the end of the day, you know, they will be the ones, so it doesn't become political. A lot of good things end up being political because people try their best, however way it's seen. Someone can jump up one day and say, oh, y'all gave this money to the vice president and she has bought a new car. You know, it may not be true, but by the time you correct it, it could be late. So I think I will be asking the Spoon Foundation family to help us raise the funding and help us expend it so that the work is done in an expeditious manner, but that there will also be complete transparency and accountability in this area.
All right. Thank you. My question here, Madam Vice President, what has changed? Are you now getting, the last time you were here, you didn't want to talk about it, but I mean, and everybody could see that something was going on. Have you been able to get the support that were allotted for your office? And are you able to communicate with the president? How often do you guys communicate?
And you know, I think this is a question that everybody wants to always talk about. And in 2021, guys, it's not going to be about me. I think I have a responsibility And if you talk to politicians across the African spectrum, they will tell you, oh, the vice president's office is a support office and you should be quiet. You know, it's taking me quite a long time getting here. But I want 2021 to be about the people of our country. Whatever the personal situation is, and you know, I've been dealing with it. I have quite a lot of good friends out there in the diaspora, and I'll continue to call on their help whenever I need it in terms of helping me to do what is necessary. Someone made a comment the other day, and not to me, to a friend of mine, and they said, oh, you know, Vice President Taylor has just become a crybaby and she's a spoiler. And I'll be, in a few days, I'll be 58 years old. And I'm calling out this age because I know many people at my age have not done half of what I've done. So I'm proud to be a beautiful 58-year-old in this season. But I want to take what I do and not make it personal. It's not important anymore. What is important is, in the end, how is society going to gauge each of us? And that's what every politician has to think about. In the end, what will you be remembered for? And I know I'm not a crybaby. I know that we have a coalition that brought together 3 political parties. And there are some things that just didn't go right. And so I made it an effort to talk about it. We are lucky that in our age, we're talking about these issues. We are not going to the bushes to bring war upon our people. So I think the media has been open enough that anyone can come on the radio and say what you believe. And when someone talks about how bad they feel or how hurt they feel, I think it's a way of healing too, to say, hey, you know, something's going wrong here. It doesn't mean you're a crybaby or that you're not a team player. And I'll continue to speak. I'll continue to say what I must. But I think in 2021 going forward, people will be looking at me. What do I do? How do I utilize the space I've been given to be vice president? What are my actions and what my input will be in making Liberia better and not bitter? Anything else, you know, people will come up with their plans and their programs, and there are a lot of stories, there are a lot of theories of what could happen and what could not happen. Someone sent me a text this morning on New Year's Day and said, oh, don't forget, you'll be impeached. And I just laughed. I said, because I've been to the gates of hell and the gates of death during COVID, and God allowed me to come back. I'm stronger in my faith. I'm stronger in what I believe I can do. I'm going to continue to work as I have and continue to make a difference and let everybody else look in their closets and see how they can clean it up. And I can tell you, Stanton, going forward, it's not about what happens or what doesn't happen. The records will be clear. You know, at the end of the budget year, anybody can look at it and see, you know, how things were done. It's not going to be my issue. I think God hasn't given me a chance to live, to whine about the things I don't have, but to use my positive energy to making a difference. And this is where I'm going to be in 2021 and moving forward.
So let's speak about that, because I'm sorry, Timberlake, let me just throw in this one question real quick. You spoke about the collaboration. Is there still a collaboration?
And there is a collaboration on paper, you know, that 3 parties got together. And the last time I had a chance to speak with Rodney C.A., I spoke about it then, that I think the party structure, you know, has not been brought together properly. There are a lot of gaps. There's a lot of misinformation. There's a lot of disadvantage. And if you read our agreement, it says that, you know, first thing we come together, you know, everything will be decided by the 3 parties. We step together with the head of state and chart a way forward, because in the end, each one will be held responsible for what has happened. And so if we don't get a chance to sit and engage one another and hear, you know, the wrong side or the upside, the SWOT analysis to be done, and then in the end, we're all in one basket. But I believe that 2021 is only just a new opportunity. How the party takes it, how we work together or not, again, will be left on the head of the party leaders. And I hope we've learned something coming out of 2020, that there are many changes that need to be made and all voices need to come on board. So it's left with the top leaders at the top who actually make some of the decisions to look and see where this coalition is. If you look at the Facebook, and I'm not on there, but I've gotten a lot of information sent to me about comments being made by people from the MPP and from the LPDP. You know, a lot of people are not satisfied that the coalition is working as we had envisaged. And I hope this is a midpoint time and people will take stock of what needs to be done and correct it as we go towards 2023. The agreement with the coalition ends in 2022. So I think we all have our feet to the fire, and let's see how it works out. I'm still hopeful that the people of Liberia made a choice, and if we do not live up to the expectations for which we have been elected, then we'll have another 2020 on our hands. But God has given us an opportunity. Let's see who takes advantage of it.
I don't want to take away the time, but I will come back to that collaboration conversation. Let me give Sintomalin the time to ask his question.
Madam Vice President, for 58-year-old, you are beautiful, real beautiful for your age. Trust me. God bless you.
Thank you.
Yeah, but regarding the back to the politics, right? You are a very smart woman, educated. You have a bright future ahead of you. You stay young, and make no mistake. They come into power of the CDC coalition. You may play a major factor. I can tell you that. I will follow the statistics. You're coming, the MPP factor to it, brought you guys to power. And your election in Bond County a few years ago with a convincing victory. So now, from the way of two things going, there's a fear that your coalition may not return to power in 2023. And can you tell us? Can you grade your government at this point in your third year? What you get your government grade, and also what's the future looks like in the coming year? Because 2021 is a crucial year. As soon as you know, in 2022, election is coming, and from the way of things, I could see there's a fracture in the coalition already, and I don't know where your legacy will be on the ballot. So I don't think you want to change your legacy going forward in 2023. So what's the way forward? What's going to happen in the coming months, in the coming year?
And I leave this to the movers and shakers in the coalition. I hope we've gotten a clear message that the people of Liberia have sent to us. I hope we can look at where we're falling short and catch up and see how we can, as a coalition and a governing party, change the trajectory. The Chinese people say if you don't change where you're going, you end up where you're headed. So I hope this is a loud and clear message to us that we must get everyone on board. I don't think all of us are on board in 2020. And you see how many seats we lost. How can we come back on board? How can we reassess what we're doing? How can we re-engender the hope and the aspirations of our people so that they believe in what we're doing? If you listen to most of the radio stations across Liberia and even in the diaspora, as we look at Liberian issues, there's a lot of hopelessness. There's a lot of disappointment, even within the party structure. I've heard many parties towards stalwarts now, saying something else, going the opposite way. So I hope we can all get together as leaders and find it, and I say genuine way forward. If you keep telling your parents, oh, I'm sorry that I didn't do the right thing, and you keep doing the same wrong things, at one point your parents will say, hey, we're not going to take this anymore. So we have a responsibility to, if that is the wish of the coalition, and there is a clause in that coalition document that says if someone feels they are no longer able to carry on, that they should give a 90-day notice, and then they can step out. So I think we now have to reassess everything and find out what needs to be done. But I think when the people of Liberia elected this group, it was intended that we would do the best that we could. But we do have a new opportunity. We have actually, 2 more years, like you say, because the last year is actually an election year. And this will be the first time, I believe, in the history of Liberia that we will have presidential, representatives, and senatorial elections at the same time. If it's happened before, it's been quite a long time. So 2023 is a very difficult year because the entire government will be up, for re-elections. So we have much work to do. We have to close the gaps. If that is the wish of everyone else in a genuine way, then we have to look at it. I will be sitting back and looking at the signals, because I can sit here and say, oh yeah, everything is hunky-dory, everything is well. And then by the time I turn my back, it's a different story. I've learned most of the people I've been working with. I know who the troublemakers are. I know who are those that want to sow seeds of discord. I have a general idea of who's doing what. And, I have some shortfalls too. I shouldn't sit here and say I'm perfect. I'm not a perfect individual. The one thing I am is that I'm maniac about anything I do. I'm either 100% or I'm zero. And that's a bad thing to not have a middle point, because I believe when you get to this point in national leadership, you must give 100% and nothing less. If you do something less, you have to be at least 70. You can't be at 30 and 40. So I've been saying some things and trying to shake the ground and shake the tree so people find a way forward. I know 2 years ago, I had a very strong conversation with one of the party leaders, and I predicted the same thing. And I said to them, if we go this particular way that I'm hearing, and if we're not careful, we'll lose all of our seats. And the person said, oh, you just have to bring confusion, and we'll not be like that, and this and that, and the other. Today we are where we are. Let's hope we can now do a serious assessment of what cost us the losses that we found in our coalition, and try to bridge the gap, or else not everybody get out and go their own way, and then we see what happens. But I think this is left on the leadership of our leader. Again, the buck stops at his desk, and he hopefully has gotten the message that I've seen, and hopefully we have an opportunity. But I guess the gauging will be left with the media. You have a more independent side of looking at things. So let's see, Stanton, by January 1, 2022, let's see where we are. I think over the coming months, whatever signals we were talking about, if it comes to pass, then we are serious. If it doesn't, then again, 2022, January 1st, we should be able to see where we are in this journey.
Okay, let me just come in. Madam Vice President, I keep hearing you, in your presentation talking about a last signal being sent as a result of the December 8th election. Are you being part of this government? Which area do you think the government needs to pay key attention to so that you will not have this repeated in 2023? Where have you guys gone wrong as the government?
And let me look at the holistic idea of governance, because it would be unfair for me to pick at any one person. Because a government which consists of the three branches must move in tandem. If the first branch of government isn't doing what it's supposed to be, it affects the judicial branch. It also affects the executive, because the legislature has an oversight responsibility that can put a stop to a lot of these issues. And I think if we raise the bar and start to work, things could shift in many directions. But I had read the Constitution many times, but a few years ago, for some reason, I kept looking at the reason why governance and governments are set up. And it would surprise you to find out that it says for the happiness. Can you imagine? For the happiness of your people. And let's look at a family, a husband, a wife, and children. Both of the parents are responsible for the happiness of that family, right? Whatever you do affects them positively or negatively. And if the children are not happy, the parents will see it. There'll be a lot of grumbling. There'll be all kinds of things. People will cook. They will make the food salty. Other people will not clean up. What's going on here? Then the parents will know there's a problem. But in the end, each government is responsible to make its people happy. And I think the message coming out of 2020 is that the general population is not happy with the way things have been. So we, as the parents, all of the leaders in each of the branches, must now look internally if we are genuine about leadership and correcting the things that we can correct, doing more in certain areas to bring more harmony to our country, and seeing what we can do to make our people happy. I know as we ended this year, we had a problem with cash, actual physical cash in the banks. And many people stood on the lines 2 days before Christmas, the day before Christmas, and they were unable to get physical cash. So there's a problem with physical cash in our system. And that's something that has made people very sad, because many people, though they had a job, went home without being able to provide Christmas for their children. And there are 2 days that Liberians take more than anything else. So I would take rice issue. We take 26 and we take Christmas as the two most important days. And if during those periods, the father or the mother is not able to provide Christmas gift or new clothes for 26, it's an issue, and your children will be very angry with you, not understanding the situation. So I think that's a major issue that has to be tackled. I know they're sending blame back and forth, the person responsible, the other person responsible. Government is responsible for the fact that we've let this drag for so long without finding out what the issues were and how we can solve it. And I think it has to be an issue, because if people are working, government is the majority employer of citizens across our country. If that majority of maybe 100,000 persons, if you times that by 10, it's a large number that people are not able to get physical cash from the bank, then it's a problem. So I mean, there are some major problems like that. We need to look at it holistically and see what can be done to solve the problems, because in the end, we are elected to provide leadership, to provide guidance, but also to make our people happy in every essence of the word.
So let me ask a question, Madam VP. Now, we're going to be very rapid. Who is responsible for the Liberia problem today? Is the country better now than 3 years ago?
And I don't know if I can answer that question in an honest way, and so I don't want to attempt to do so. I think there are many things that are happening. For example, we've had COVID. In the last 6 years of Madam Ellen Sirleaf's term, she had an Ebola situation that even in the best of times actually rocked the boat when we dealt with the Ebola pandemic. We've had now a COVID situation that is providing a real challenge to governance, but that's at the extreme end. There are many other little things that can be done, like the issue of cash. COVID isn't the cause of the fact that we don't have cash in the banks. There's something wrong. There are several levels. The central bank should be the one making sure that there is enough liquidity in the system. So they have a responsibility to make sure the banks are liquid. So if you want to put the blame of the liquidity situation at the feet of anyone, it should be the central bank and the banking institutions, but central bank that has that responsibility. So can all of us really look and see what's happening in our different sectors and try to find a way to resolve it? And I think that's the only way I can look at it, to be fair, that many things are happening. There are responsibilities at several levels. And the president goes and he puts up people for different positions. The minister of maybe there was a palm butter ministry. I don't want to talk about anybody in particular. What if we had a ministry for palm butter? And you have your act, it is specific in what you should be doing. There's no way you can go back and forth to the president and say, oh, can I do this? Can I sign this letter? Because when we meet at cabinet, we were supposed to talk about all of those things and lay the groundwork. And then you go and make it actual and you make it real. So if you're not doing what you should, your whole ministry and agency falls back. And then the people start to complain. Nothing working here, man, and nothing working there. So there's a loud cry of plenty of things not working in many areas. Those who have the responsibility to look at them should. And I think the president, who is the one making these appointments and deciding if something is working or not, hopefully there are many rumors. People coming be, shuffled, other people will be removed. This will happen, that will happen. Again, as head of state, whatever happens in this regime actually falls on his desk. So I'm hoping he will look at each person more critically and see what needs to be done. The decisions are indeed his.
So then let me please, is the country better now than 3 years ago? Just yes or no, then we'll move on.
And I can't answer that. It wouldn't be fair if I would, because then I will be looking not at the actual realities. If you ask whether there was money shortage in the Sirleaf government, I would say no. There was no time that we didn't have, physical cash in the bank. But that government had its own challenges, and so do we. And so I'll leave that question with you guys who are in the media. I know at the beginning of the year, there is an assessment done of ministries and agencies and of government. There's some newspapers who will say somebody made A and somebody made F minus. So I'm looking forward to that report in January because it is a more independent eye. And I think even where I sit, I'm sure someone would say, you know, the office of the vice president hasn't done what it should have done. So I'm looking for the report on my office too, so I can look at it and see where I can adjust myself to make sure that I continue to work in the areas that I should, and I do what is necessary. So I want to do that with you guys who are in the media. I'm really sorry that I can't answer that question honestly. I don't want to be biased.
So let's talk about the president and your position. What is your main function as vice president?
My main function as vice president is to be president of the Liberian Senate. And if the president has an assignment for me, I should assist him in his duties. And that's why the office of the vice president throughout our history has been as maybe silent as it has been. And I should assist the president in the discharge of his duties according to the Constitution. But my actual main function is being president of the Liberian Senate. And so I think...
I'm sorry, man. But also, it's to also advise this president. We have seen it all around the world that the vice president is the last person in the room to speak to the president for any major decision or any major cabinet pick, right? Will you consider that as one of your...
I think that's the general way things should run. But then I've been reminded by many persons, you sit until the president says, you know, ask your opinion. If I'm asked an opinion, I usually give it, even if it's not what people want to hear. But you have to be allowed, and the president says, the Constitution says that you assist the president in the discharge of his duties, and he determines what those duties are. And so I have to respect that.
Have you been asked for your own opinion or advice on any of the cabinet member position? Who should I appoint, Madam Vice President? I want to appoint Joseph Baby Brown. I want to appoint Peter Paul. Have you been consulted? Have you been asked for your own opinion?
And I don't have to be consulted because the Constitution says the president shall. But the truth is, I haven't been consulted in that way.
I understand we respect the Constitution, but most often...
And I said I have not been consulted in such a way.
Okay, all right.
Because you thought I'm going to bypass it some kind of way.
No, I'm asking the question because where we are heading right now is 2023. And you talk about the collaboration, something that you have the NPP, the other party, and CDC. Madam VP, are you satisfied with this collaboration? Do you think it will hold going into 2023 election?
And let me say frankly that I'm not satisfied with the way things have been going. But as an individual, I cannot determine what happens at each political party level. I'm just the first amongst equals at the MPP. I don't know what their thoughts are. We too have some internal issues. We should have had our convention in December. We're now in January. That convention has still not been held. So I think we have some issues in our party by ourselves as members of MPP. But again, when you have those kinds of frictions, then you can't even participate fully at the top level. So MPP too has to decide, you know, what it wants to do. If we will follow our constitutional mandates and stand up to the plate and make our voices heard, or if we will continue wrangling as, you know, we've been doing and continue to lose the opportunity to be a part of the governance space. That too is an opportunity. If we don't take advantage of it, we could lose it. So we too have our own issues.
Go ahead, Ben. Go ahead, please.
One of the questions that I wanted to ask, and I think it was asked before, but I will frame it in another way. What was your expectation because before anybody picked someone to be the vice president, and I've seen this even recently with Joe Biden and Kamala Harris. What was that conversation? You don't have to go in depth, but what was that conversation like when President Weah called you? And what was your expectation in how you guys were going to govern the country? Because whether you like it or not, the two of you guys were on that ballot. The Liberian people voted for both you and the president. So what was that conversation like, and what was your expectations?
And frankly, my expectation was that we would work together closely and bring the best that we had to offer to our governance process. Unfortunately, and like I said, I didn't want to talk about this today because I've answered this question many times. We had more than 6 meetings before I finally made up my mind that the arrangement, was being considered in a positive light. And I had many beautiful conversations with Ambassador Weah at the time as to how we would be a part of this governance process. And I've been disappointed. But again, it is what it is. I'm not going to continue to make noise about it because this isn't the first time I've been asked this question. I'm not really happy with the way things have gone because I think during the campaign, we worked much more closely together, putting our heads together and with all of the others that were on board to build a team that enabled us to win these elections. If that same team had been put together and brought to the table with the way we worked in the campaign, maybe we would have done much, much, much more. But that is spilled milk. It's not an issue as we go forward. If I'm asked, I will put my best foot forward as I always do. If not, I'll continue to be the president of the Senate and do what I can in my own sphere.
My Vice President, just before, and I want to circle in with MPP Bong County. Bong County is your political base. And I think even with the last election, you were on tape. So this is not something that everybody was not aware of. You were on tape when you were very clear that you were not going to support Henry Yala for his re-election bid. You, by staying silent, right, was there also a message you were sending by saying, I'm just not going to say anything? And how did you feel? Well, obviously, I shouldn't ask how did you feel because obviously you didn't agree with it. But the reason I'm asking this question is, as you move forward with some of the rearrangements in the coalition and how you guys move forward, is this one of the things that you were talking about, that, consultation, all of the different things? And how did you, with Henry Yala being on that ticket and you not supporting that ticket, do you think it cost you guys the election in Bong County? And why did you not want to support him? Why?
And Ben, the issue of former Senator Yala has been something that I've been really vocal about for many years. Long before we got into 2020, I spoke of the fact that I didn't think he was worthy of the votes of the Bong County citizens, and that I think he squandered his opportunity as a young man to work for the betterment of Bong County. And I was quite vocal about it. I made many instances when he was chair of the caucus and all of the other things that I felt that he mismanaged. And I wasn't silent about it. And 2 years ago, when the issue was brought to my attention, I said over and over and over that I would not support Senator Yala because I did not think, that he would have won because Bong County wasn't happy with the way he had held his first 9 years. And again, I was overruled and the party went ahead to carry someone who would not have won in Bong County. And so we lost the county. Bong County spoke at a particular point in time. I thought I had said enough because I was quite clear with my engagements in the county. I knew very well that he would not have been reelected. And I said it way beyond the time. I was shocked even to find out that he had been coerced to come and join the coalition. And then they kept saying, don't mind her. She can talk plenty, but in the end, we'll go big her. Benjamin, all I have is my word. As a female, that's very important. Sometimes men are able to say things and say, that was just political talk. But women are held accountable for everything they do, everything they say. And if the men will get punishment 10 times, we'll get it 100 times. So I'm very vocal about some of the things I believe in. And I'll give the reasons why. It wouldn't be in a shrouded mist that people wouldn't be able to understand. I had worked in the county for more than 15 years. And so I knew that he was not the right choice. And I don't care what we had done, even though they took some of my family members and had them go and say, this is the man we're carrying. Bong County had made up his mind a couple of years before. So I was just reiterating what I knew. Sadly, I wasn't, my comments weren't taken in good faith, and they thought that by putting him in a coalition, one county would get a chance to change their mind. I saw, all of the different interactions, different leaders in the county, misleading the president. But again, this is a message and a lesson for all of us. But I will forever, as a woman, stand my ground, do what I need to do, say what I need to say. So tomorrow, people wouldn't say, oh, she just sat down and she didn't do anything. I think I need to be clear about the things I believe in and give genuine reasons why I think we should go left or right. And that is how we operated in the campaign. So when people say, oh, she won't be a crybaby, during the campaign, my opinions were very valued. I didn't just say things. I went out in the field. I worked. I went across the region. I raised money for our campaign. I did a lot of things. So I was 100%. So if I say something now, especially as it relates to where I come from, I think people should listen. Just as they went and got Henry Yala on a party ticket in Bong, they went right across to Nima County and told Senator Prince Johnson, whoever you bring is the person we carry. And I felt that was really a dichotomy in how we should be operating. I'm a member of the coalition, and you ignore my advice, but then you tell Senator Johnson, who's an affiliate member, oh, you can do whatever you want, whoever you tell us to is what we do. And I thought it was a little funny, but I knew that Bong County, for example, would not have re-elected Senator Yala.
Thank you.
Director, please. Listen, Director, before you jump in, we got to be out of here in the next 17 minutes. So we want to say thank you to Madam Vice President. Let's just do one question real quick, please.
Okay, Madam Vice President, let me ask you firstly. It'll be two in one. Can you sing? Because we heard some good music from the president. I don't know whether you can sing too. Also, but yes, my question here, Madam Vice President. This is very personal. What have you done to be treated the way you are treated? What have you done?
And let me talk about singing. Growing up, in CWA, I became Miss CWA. You can imagine all the CWA girls that became Miss CWA. And the talent that I used that year when I was competing for this title was I actually sang a beautiful song. I don't even remember what it was now, but, I did have a pretty decent voice. And I think songs have their place. We come from a traditional background where most of the messages and the different things that we get and we learn are through songs. So it's a part of our culture, and I think there's nothing particularly wrong with singing. If you would ask me to sing on the station now, maybe you'll get a gospel, something, I don't know, guide me, or I faith or something like that. I don't think I have a very good voice anymore that I could actually sing. That's why I have to be begging Sonny God, dear boy, or to do some music for me. But I think it's a part of our culture. The thing is, what do you intend to portray if you are sending a message in song? That's a whole different topic. But maybe one day we'll talk about the singing issue. But today is January 1st, so I'm not going to throw any jabs at anyone. But if you ask me what have I done for which I've been sidelined, for example, and told to go and sit in the Senate, and do the Senate work, I don't know, but each of us have our good side and we have our bad side. And as I keep saying, the president and I have never really argued. We've never exchanged words or anything like that. I have problems with some of the, lower cabinet members, but they have high positions, they have high priorities, with the president. But, I think all of us now have an opportunity to look again at the 3 years, correct what we need to correct, try to find a way to forgive one another if it's possible, and then work for our country. If not, then we should just get off this stage and allow Liberia to live, because in the end, it is about Liberia, definitely not about me as an individual. So I'll continue to put my best foot forward and do what I can. If I've angered anyone in any way by my actions or my inactions, if I've said any words or done anything to make people feel that they're angry with me, let me take this time to really say I'm sorry. in our engagements as humans. Sometimes we do anger one another. Sometimes we make each other feel bad, or we do things that others don't like. But at the final analysis, as national leaders, our responsibilities must lay to love of country and making our country better. Each generation must do all within its power to leave a lasting legacy that shows that we do love our country. And we still have a 3-year opportunity to do that. My hope and my prayer on this January 1st is that we begin in earnest to do what the people have elected us to do as a combined unit of all 3 branches of government, and make our country better. That is my prayer.
Thank you very much. Let me bring in Centurion and George. Somebody asked to just come ask 2 questions to the VP. They just want to ask this question openly. We're going to bring in the person, and from there we have to wrap this. You will be asking the last question, Tomani. So let me just bring in Costa. He been friend to the program, following the program, and he said that he have to ask the VP 2 important questions. Mr. Costa, please. Welcome.
Thank you very much, Mr. CEO, Madam Vice President. I want to say Happy New Year to you.
Happy New Year to you too.
Yeah. Well, Madam Vice President, I love the interview. I think it's fantastic. You spoke very well, and you've been around politics for a very long time, and you have a depth of experience. And I really don't have a question. I mean, I have one question that I have a comment to make, but I think it's a shame and it's a loss to the country that your depth of experience is not being utilized. I mean, I personally feel that way. And to hear you use words like the whole country knows. It's really serious problems that the government is having. And I wanted to be on this platform for that to say this publicly. As a critic of this government, we are cognizant of the unique experience and competence you have to bring on board. And rather than criticize the president on this platform on this New Year's Day, my thing to him would be an appeal that for the sake of the country, he has to make full use every resource, human and otherwise, at his disposal for the good of the country. I don't want to see the country collapse, contrary to what some people think. I want to see it work. And my attitude going forward would be to continue to be constructively critical, perhaps more so and less negative, but just to do differently. And Madam Vice President, my one question to you is, if this trend is maintained, the way the country is being played, the people are not happy. You saw the election results. Do you think, with your depth of experience, your knowledge, your political ingenuity, do you think in 3 years this coalition could work, or you could pull off a re-election? That is my only question.
Thank you, Aaron Costa. Thank you very much.
And the only way I can answer it is that we're lucky that we're in a midterm period and we still have a window of opportunity. All I can say is that I hope all of us will put our personal issues aside and put our best foot forward for love of country. And that is what I'm hoping to see as we move forward in the last 3 years of this administration.
Madam Vice President, thank you very much that we can reach this thing. I'm going to give one question to St. Thomas and George because I want you to do your closing. Before I do that, for Thomas to ask the last question, Moses Akara's Great, Representative District 8, had a press conference this morning, and he said that it will be probably, let me just say what people are thinking. We followed the press conference, but other people are suggesting, it may not be only him, or he didn't say it, that the government need to be reshuffled. This government probably going back to Sally time, sack everybody, make them to come back on the table. What do you think? What's your take?
And I'm not Honorable Representative Akara's Gray. I think the responsibility for how the CDC ends, in the next 3 years, is the responsibility of each member of this coalition. And so each of us need to do an assessment as to if we're doing well, if we're doing the best that we can, and if we're not, then we need to make some adjustments. If not, que sera, sera.
Can you, for the sake of the Liberian people on this platform, 1,000 listen to you. Someone asked, he said, grade the president from 0 to 10. That would be the last question, though. Can you grade this president?
And I'm so sorry. I'm gonna plead the fifth on this. I don't think it's my responsibility to create the president. I think it's the people's responsibility. And I'm hoping over the next few weeks before he gives his State of the Nation address that people will get a chance to chip in here and say what they think, coming from an independent standpoint. And we should always not just take our critics and make them enemies. The critics are those who will say the truth. They're not enemies of the state. They're not enemies of any individual. But the intent is to say, hey, things are not going right. Let's change course. And so I said one day on I think ELBC that what I did in 2014 was to have someone sit on the radio station and listen to all of my critics. And whatever they said that could be corrected, I corrected it. So by the time I got to election, I was able to get reelected. So most times when you see people being critical of government, it's not because they are hateful or they don't have anything to do. They just want you to do the best that you can and correct some situations that will make the country better. So I hope we can continue to do so. Each of us will be criticized. And I know many people are very critical of me. I've gotten many messages, you don't want girls here, you better fix it, all those kinds of things. I think all of us have an opportunity to look at all of that and see what you can do to make life work better. I can promise the people of this country that I will always try to do my very best. Wherever I am, I will put my best foot forward. And I hope all of us in national government, in all three branches of government, will begin to do so.
With you, with the last maybe 4 minutes we get, let me ask you, are you still hanging on 2023 as vice president to Josh Manawia?
Yeah, I come.
And I have a responsibility. I was elected by the people of this country overwhelmingly also. Both of us are on the ballot. And so I have a responsibility, not just to my party, but I think a higher responsibility to the people who elected us to continue in the 6 years, because this is why we've been elected. And I will try my best to do nothing that will make the people who stood in the lines in 2017 to give us their vote disappointed that I've done anything particular to bring the country down or to bring it into disrepute by the grace of the Almighty God.
Thank you, Madam Joe Howard Taylor. Let's talk about the picture behind you. You got a very attractive photo behind you, and you got some powerful words. I know that we have this time. You got to go. Talk to us about that little child crying and what is written over there is so scary to me. Please.
Because this is what's happening when you think about sexual and gender-based violence. And the poem says, I am a child. I'm not a bride. I'm not your wife. I'm not your woman. I'm just a child who wants a pen, not a penis of a man. Who wants books and not for somebody to play with her breasts. Who wants someone that would genuinely be interested in her future and pay her school fees and not pay a bride price for a child that is just that, just a child. And she wants education, not an ejaculation from a man. And so this child is crying because she's been abused and her hopes and aspirations have been left aside. May each of us, as parents, as community leaders, as siblings, as family members, and as government, not take advantage of our young daughters. They deserve our love and our attention and a chance to make them what they would like to be.
Wow. Madam Vice President, thank you very, very much. If you can hear us, we want to say, may God bless you.
I think your mic is muted. We're not hearing you. See you.
No, we good.
We can hear
you.
I'm not hearing you guys.
All right. Can you hear us,
Yeah.
Madam Vice President?
No, I don't think we can hear.
All right. So, but listen, we will pause for a minute, and I know Emmanuel will come back.
Okay, sir. Those of you listening to this.
Yeah, I think we. Hold on one
We
second.
just lost her at the end. I just want us to take maybe 10 minutes to discuss
maybe
everything she said.
And
And Emmanuel is coming back on. She's she about to leave because we respect her 2 hours. but that was very informative, gentlemen. That was. St. Thomas George.
Yeah.
Okay, I think she will leave, but we can give her closing next time.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, due to the technical problem. Those of you that listen to us, we just had a long 2 hours with the vice president. She made her case to Liberia. She discussed about her foundation. Her foundation like to partner with the Spoon Foundation, not the Spoon Network. It's with the Spoon Foundation. Please, let me make that very clear. And that we will do everything possible to work in every other way possible to help in this great initiative. Now, Costa, you came on late, but you are following us all through. And I don't think, oh, Emmanuel is coming back. Yeah. Emmanuel, are you with us? All right, Emmanuel.
CEO, we're having a problem with you coming through the audio. So
are you with us?
Yes.
Okay, so we're good now.
Yeah, so I was just asking the vice president a message because we're not getting any of the you guys were saying.
Okay, no, what happened is that we're winding down. We are winding down because we up to the hour, but we were just asking the vice president to give her closing, and we said thank you for appearing tonight. Madam Vice President, please.
Let me say thank you for allowing me in this very unique space tonight. I know there's so many people who had maybe wanted to be on here, and I'm really grateful for this opportunity. We've had a frank discussion. I've learned a lot listening to the other side, and I hope that all of us will continue to work for our country. It is this generation that has a responsibility to ensure that we don't leave this country less than the way we found it. So all of our feet are being put on the fire. The media's feet is being put to the fire. Community leaders, people in government, we who are members of this government at a midpoint, and I think we need to be cognizant of how the situation is across our country and work to make it better. I think that's why we were elected. You know, I pray that I wish the president and the first lady and all of the cabinet members a happy new year. And it's not just about today. It's about every day, 365 days of 2021. May we live and interact and engage in ways that actually help our country grow and develop for the betterment of our generation and those still not yet born. But I'm really grateful for this opportunity. And it's good to talk to all of you guys. Thank you, Henry, for jumping in. Benjamin, Happy New Year. It's good to see your face. Happy New Year to all of you. It's really been a good exchange, and I'm really grateful for the opportunity. God bless all of us and save our state.
Thank you very much, Madam Vice President. Have a wonderful evening, and may God bless Liberia. Thank you.
Amen.
Amen. All right, gentlemen. It's time to jump into everything we just heard. It's time to talk about it with the few minutes we got left.
I want to say something. So I'm watching.
Emmanuel, your thing still.
Can you guys hear me?
Go ahead, talk to us.
So is the BB going out? Okay.
She's out.
Go ahead.
So look, I was in the middle of something, but from time to time I jumped in and I watched before I came on, right? And I'm gonna say this. I've been reading the comments. You have almost 2,000 people watching. And I've been reading the comments. And I'm gonna say this, except anybody here wants to be blind. This sort of interaction, Mr. Waterspoon, that the Vice President just had with you and your fine co-host is something that brings the leaders closer to the people. The comments here are overwhelmingly positive, and they are coming from all ideas, opposition and ruling party supporters alike. I'm saying this to say, Mr. Waterspoon, when you make such efforts, such as what you do, to bring public officials on, to interact with their people, it minimizes, the divide, the misunderstanding, and all of that. We are, I believe, we take cue from this to speak to his people. Maybe not on a show like this, but to interact with his people. I think it's going to help him. He doesn't speak to his people. It's a major problem. I see people here who don't support the government, but are pleasant to the vice president. I see a lot of that here. My own supporters. Why is that? Because she sits here, she speaks very well, she makes sense, she is largely honest about her answers. And I like the answer she gave you. You asked her to grade, I mean, that's the most brilliant answer they will give you. I'm speaking as a political commentator, Mr. Whatever. I've been doing this for 9 years. This was a fantastic interview. The answer she gave to grading the president, it is not her place to grade the president. But her answer to make it even more brilliant was the fact that it is the people who should grade the president. She's right. And look at what the people just did. The people just graded the president. Out of 15 counties, the people gave him 2. He lost 13. If you want to get a numerical grade, the president made 30 or 25. That's what he scored. Or even less. For Mr. Weatherspoon, the vice president said midway is 3 years in the middle. It's a long time in politics. Nobody should write George Weah off. Even as a big critic of George Weah, I will not write him off.
So hold on, Kosa, hold on. I understand, and I'm sorry that they are saying that your volume going in and out. I think that's your internet connection probably.
It can be, but I don't know. But it can
yeah. Be. So, but let me since we hearing each other a little bit, let me ask you the question about grading the president. The vice president answered that question eloquently. That was fine. The Liberian people, you said, graded the president 2 out of 15. You said that. That's fine. Let's talk about the 3 years moving forward. How can the president spend this? I know you are not a fan of this president, but how can he spend this? Hearing what we just heard from the vice president, is there still a room for this president saying you are not ruling him out at this time?
Yes, but he's not going to like my recommendations. The president is surrounded by people who are toxic. The public hates them. If the president wants to save himself, he has to cut loose some of the dead weight he has around him. He's in the middle of the ocean. People like Samuel Twe, people like McGill, they may be his most loyal men, but the public hates them. He has to get rid of them. The president needs to do an overall restructure of the government. He needs to completely recalibrate his approach to governance. The president himself needs to stop some of the things he's personally doing. Stop making music. Stop dancing in public. Stop flying private jets. Stop buying properties left and right. We know he's taking money. Hide the money. What are you showing the offer when everybody's hungry? The president needs to bring people from outside. These are not things they don't want to hear. This is the only thing the people on my side of the political division are going to say. You know what? Maybe the president is making some improvements and let's give him a second chance. But again, I don't believe the president will do these things, especially when it comes from the government.
So Ben, jump in over here. We just lost that to Peabody. Go ahead, Ben. Is there a room for some correction to make this president shine 2023?
There's always room. There's always room. And like Costa said, in politics, 3 years is a lifetime. And that's why with all of the predictions, I always tell people, I warn people, all these different predictions that we have, as political analysts, we are supposed to predict and project and do different things. But it's not an easy thing to unseat an incumbent, right? And then take advantage of the fact an African incumbent. But it's also not impossible. But that incumbent also has to understand what made him the incumbent. What I listened to, it was more of, I see that President Weah he's lucky. And let me say why I say he's lucky. He's lucky because he still has a chance to make this turn. He still has a chance. Look, say what you want to say about Joe Howard Taylor, like her, hate her. She is probably one of the most experienced public servants in that government today. And to have her at that level, as high as it is, and not utilize her it's a negative for the government. Mrs. Sirleaf, who was president of Liberia, used then Senator Taylor. I can name you. I was in Liberia. I followed a lot of the things. I can name you bills that the two of them worked on together. I know the Traditional Council bill, the superintendent, the fiscal affairs bill. I mean, go on and on. And Dora Taylor was a fighter for Ellen Johnson Sirleaf in the Senate. But guess what? When they came to fight, they fought. She was in opposition to
but you see, but Ben, before I get to Dr. Peabody and Tom, let me say this. You see the conversation we're having?
Mm-hmm.
Should we say then that we can have this clean conversation, not because Madam VP was here, but we always have a clean conversation. Mm-hmm. Mr. Costa, let me go back to you then. Can we have a clean conversation? Can you criticize the president fairly? Can you criticize him without any personal insult? Can we make a change right now when it comes to the Liberian people that they can hear Costa on the radio, on the TV, on Facebook, say, Mr. President, you're wrong on the policy. Make a change in this direction, but not the insult though. Can we do that the first day of the year?
You know, I will speak something to you here, guys. Stand on what is true. My reality is for your reality. You have not been chased, hunted down, demoralized, threatened, physically attacked by this government as I have been. You have not lost businesses as I have. So it is easier for you or anyone to expect me to be nice to a man who personally hates my guts. You have not been physically threatened by the president. This president said in his church that he wanted to physically fight me. So I'm dealing with a man who hates me. And so the way I speak is simply my reaction for the way he treats me and the things he's done to me. Mr. Weatherspoon, the only way I will start dealing with this government the way I deal with this government, Mr. Weatherspoon, is when they treat me differently. When Mrs. Sirleaf was president, I criticized her, but I never spoke to her in the manner in which I speak to this president. I deal with Mr. Weatherspoon. This is not how I want to speak to this man. But mind you, this is the man who tried to extradite me from Sierra Leone over a laissez-passer. This is the man who had my rally attacked with people with stakes and nails. This is the man who shut down my radio station and seized my equipment worth $100,000 and looted my whole place. This is a man who went to the BBC and his Minister of Information accused me of attempting to overthrow the government. So when I speak the way I speak, you have to understand where I am. It is personal. This is a man who has threatened the president to kick me on Kerry Street to engage me in a fist fight. You are not me. I crossed in a canoe over a dark river to a foreign country and they chased me into that foreign country. What have I done? Like the vice president said, a president will choose us not as enemies of the state, but as critics and Liberians who have a stake in this country, our common denominator. My approach to what the president will be different. I want to make that promise to you here, Mr. Wilson. If they treat me differently, I promise you, Stanton, I will treat the president differently.
So there's a room. Then Dr. Peabody, you heard what Mr. Costa said. There is a room. There is a room that we all can come on the table to discuss moving forward. Go ahead.
Right, and I think the vice president made it clear tonight that she was open. She even went as far as saying that if I wrong anybody, I'm willing to apologize. I apologize. I want you to forgive me. She made it very clear that we should move on and let's start. She was very clear. And like Mr. Costa has said, it's open, there's a room. But can this leader take the initiative as the father of everybody? Can he take that initiative and say, hey, it's time for us to mend our differences and begin to, in the interest of the country? Will he do?
Let me say
let somebody jump in.
I beg you, somebody, Jeff, let me steal 1 minute from you because I don't want to lose this thought. You know, I was reading something the other day, and just to build on what Doc was saying, and I said this personally to President Weah, and I would say it publicly. The day he won the election, and we stood in his yard, in his house, and we were talking, I said to him, I said, you must be an extremely blessed man. the fact that you got to the highest level when you play soccer. You got involved in politics. You have now arrived at the highest level. But I said to him, I said, Mr. President-elect, accept your victory with magnanimity. Accept this victory with magnanimity. And like everybody has said and will continue to say, he is the father of the country. He is the leader of the country. Whether anybody like it or not, you agree, George Weah is president of Liberia. And he has a responsibility to govern all of us. Even the ones that don't speak too kindly to him, even the ones that speak kindly to him. I just wanted to say that. And I felt that it was important because I think that's the problem. It's also not understanding when you come with an attitude of I've won. And so everybody else don't matter. Except the victory.
And that's why, Ben, and that's what the New Year is about right now. Today is the first
yes,
of the year, the 1st of January. We have the VP saying a lot. And each time we try to corner her with some tough question, she gave a better answer. And now Costa is saying there's a room. There's a room that we can sit down and make a difference, but treat me fairly. I believe everybody will ask the same thing. Treat me fairly, treat me openly, honestly, and I will do the same for you. Tell me, George, where are we going now? We expect the president to speak to the nation on the State of State address.
Well, tonight, I mean, this evening, the vice president, she made it. I mean, honestly, I was very surprised that she was more open. She came forth. She didn't hide anything, and every Liberian knows from what she said today. There's a problem in the country between she and the president, and the coalition is fractured. And I think opposition, if I'm in opposition now, they should learn from the vice president today. There's a room. The opposition has a chance that I don't see the coalition holding. I listened to the president's sermon last night in his church, at the church, and if you listen to that sermon, if he will do the things he said he's going to do, maybe, but I still don't see it. And you can tell from the vice president that we're talking about change coming in the country, and it tells you that she's not even part of the governing process, like the effecting changes in cabinet picks and appointments. You can tell from today that she's not part of it, and there's a problem. And you can tell that ministers in the